Picture this, a metal tray slides through the slot in your cell door. On it sits a scoop of grayish meat, a pile of watery beans, and a piece of bread so stale it could break a tooth. No seasoning, no choice, just enough calories to keep you alive. For millions of people behind bars, this isn't an exception. It's every meal, day after day, week after week. Food isn't comfort in prison, it's control. But here's the twist. Inside those walls, food becomes more than survival. It becomes a currency. Packs of ramen noodles worth more than cash. Candy bars turned into bargaining chips. And in the middle of it all, inmates inventing recipes from scraps pizzas made out of tortillas, cakes baked in microwaves, spreads that transform a handful of commissary snacks into a feast. So what do inmates really eat? Is it punishment on a tray, a health disaster in slow motion, or a hidden culture most people on the outside never see? Tonight, we're going inside the chow hall, through the commissary, and into the cells to uncover the truth about prison food. Because if you really want to know how a society treats its prisoners, look at what it feeds them. Food in prison isn't just about feeding people, it's about control. On paper, prison meals are designed to meet the minimum daily calorie requirements set by law. That usually means somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 calories a day. But here's the thing. Those calories aren't about nutrition or taste. They're about efficiency. The goal is to keep inmates alive, not to keep them healthy. That's why meals are often built from the cheapest ingredients possible. Powdered eggs, soy-based meat substitutes, overcooked starches. Fresh fruit and vegetables are rare because they cost more and spoil quickly. Instead, prisons rely on canned goods, processed carbs, and frozen bulk orders. The budget per meal in some facilities can be as low as $2. Imagine feeding a grown adult breakfast, lunch, and dinner for less than the price of a latte. But beyond cost, food is also discipline. In prison, meals happen on a schedule, not when you're hungry. You eat what's given, or you go without. Refuse to follow the rules? You might lose access to the chow hall. Cause trouble? You might end up on Nutriloaf, the infamous punishment meal. Food becomes a tool to enforce order, a constant reminder that the system controls even the most basic part of your life. It's also about sameness. Day after day, trays come with the same beans, the same bread, the same unrecognizable stew. That monotony isn't an accident. It's part of the punishment. When every meal tastes bland, every day blurs together. Time itself becomes another ingredient in the recipe. And yet, food is one of the few things in prison everyone shares. Guards and inmates may be on opposite sides, but they both know what's coming out of the chow hall. For officers, it's a management tool. For inmates, it's survival, and sometimes rebellion. Refusing food, organizing hunger strikes, or rioting over rotten meals are all ways prisoners have used food to fight back. So yes, prison food exists to fill stomachs, but its deeper purpose is psychological. It's a daily reminder of where you are, what you've lost, and who controls your choices. And if you really want to feel what that means, you have to see what a day's worth of meals actually looks like. If you want to understand prison food, you have to live a day on the tray. Breakfast is usually the cheapest, fastest, and most forgettable meal. In many U.S. prisons, it arrives before sunrise, sometimes as early as 4:30 a.m. On the tray, you'll often find a scoop of instant oatmeal, maybe powdered scrambled eggs, and a slice of bread or a biscuit. Coffee? Forget it. Most prisons don't serve it. If you want caffeine, you buy instant packets from the commissary. Fruit is rare. Protein is rarer. Some prisons hand out small cartons of milk, others powdered substitutes. It's not a meal designed to fuel your day. It's designed to get you through it. Lunch arrives around mid-morning, closer to 10 or 11 a.m. It's almost always the lightest meal of the day. A bologna sandwich on stale bread, a piece of fruit that's bruised or half rotten, maybe a scoop of beans or pasta. The joke among inmates is that lunch isn't really lunch, it's just a placeholder until dinner. For some, it's also a hustle. That apple on your tray might not get eaten. It might get traded for ramen noodles or candy at the commissary. Food is currency, and lunch is one of the main sources of trade. Dinner is where most of the calories show up, but not the quality. Imagine a tray of overcooked rice, mystery meat in a watery gravy, canned green beans boiled into mush. Maybe on a special day you get fried chicken or tacos meals that resemble real food but taste nothing like it. And always there's bread. Cheap carbs are the foundation of prison meals. They fill you up fast, even if they leave your body starving for nutrients. Then there's the weekend twist. In some prisons, brunch replaces breakfast and lunch, meaning inmates eat only twice a day. The portions are a little bigger, but the hunger in between is real. For those without money for commissary snacks, it's just another form of quiet punishment. Across the world, the story is similar. In the UK, meals are built around potatoes and processed meats. In parts of Latin America, rice and beans dominate, sometimes with meat, sometimes not. In overcrowded prisons in Africa or Asia, food might be just one scoop of porridge or maize, with little else. Whether in a developed or developing country, the themes repeat: cheap, monotonous, and barely enough. And what does that do to people? The monotony grinds on you. Imagine eating the same watery beans every day for years. Imagine the same scoop of rice, the same overcooked vegetables until you stop tasting it at all. Inmates describe food not as nourishment but as background noise, something you endure, not enjoy. But the real kicker is when the food isn't just bland, it's spoiled. Reports from prisons across the US tell of maggots in kitchens, mold on bread, meat served half raw or long expired. These aren't rare accidents, they're recurring scandals. And when inmates are forced to eat food they wouldn't feed to a dog, anger builds. Hunger strikes erupt, sometimes riots. So a day on a tray isn't just 3 bad meals. It's a window into how prisons see the people inside them. Not as humans who need nutrition, but as bodies to be managed at the lowest possible cost. And yet, within this bleak routine, something fascinating happens. Inmates don't just accept the food, they transform it. They build entire underground cuisines out of scraps and commissary snacks. That's where the story of prison food takes a turn from punishment to creativity. If prison food is usually bland and monotonous, there's one dish that takes it even further, a meal so infamous that it's been called cruel, degrading, and even unconstitutional. Inmates know it as the Nutraloaf. On paper, Nutraloaf sounds practical. Take all the basic food groups: starch, protein, vegetables, and mash them into one loaf. Bake it into a dense, flavorless brick. No spices, no seasoning, no presentation. Just calories fused into something that looks like a brown cinder block. It meets nutritional standards, but that's where the positives end. In reality, Nutraloaf isn't served to nourish. It's served to punish. Inmates usually get it when they've broken rules, fighting, throwing food, attacking staff. Instead of being sent to the chow hall, they're given this loaf day after day until the punishment period ends. No trays, no variety, just the same dry block 3 times a day. Those who've eaten it describe it as barely edible. Imagine dry beans, vegetables, and flour pressed together, with the texture of cardboard and the taste of dirt. Some prisons even serve it cold. For many, it's not just food, it's humiliation on a plate. And that's the heart of the controversy. Critics argue that food should never be used as punishment. Denying someone decent meals crosses the line from discipline into cruelty. In fact, lawsuits have challenged Nutraloaf as a violation of the 8th Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. Some states, under public pressure, have banned it outright. Others still use it quietly, tucked away in disciplinary units. Defenders, of course, see it differently. They argue that Nutraloaf is safe, simple, and effective. If inmates abuse regular meals, say, by throwing trays at guards or smuggling contraband, the loaf solves the problem. It's unthrowable, untradeable, unappealing. In their eyes, it's not torture, it's just control. But here's the deeper issue. Nutraloaf turns food, one of the most basic human needs, into a weapon. It sends a message that prison isn't just about losing freedom, it's about losing dignity. And once you strip that away, what's left? For many inmates, the loaf isn't just punishment for a rule broken. It's a reminder that the system can take even the most basic part of life, eating, and turn it into suffering. In the end, Nutraloaf is more than a meal. It's a symbol of how far prisons are willing to go to enforce control, even at the cost of humanity. If the chow hall shows you what prisons feed inmates, the commissary shows you how inmates actually survive. The commissary is basically a prison store. Once or twice a week, inmates with money in their accounts can buy extras: instant ramen, candy bars, chips, coffee, toiletries, even the occasional pouch of tuna or mackerel. The list isn't long, but compared to what comes on a state-issued tray, it's gold. And here's the twist. Commissary food doesn't just fill stomachs, it becomes money. Inside prison, ramen noodles are worth more than dollars. A single pack can buy you a haircut, pay off a debt, or even rent protection from another inmate. Candy bars become bargaining chips. Instant coffee becomes liquid gold. When cash doesn't exist, food becomes the economy. This underground system is how many inmates really get by. Those who can afford commissary build meals that are actually edible spreads made from ramen mixed with chips, summer sausage, or peanut butter. Tortillas turned into makeshift pizzas topped with cheese powder and crushed Doritos. Cakes baked in microwaves from Oreos, peanut butter, and melted candy. These creations are more than food. They're culture. They're community. Inmates share recipes, pool resources, and sit together to eat spreads as if they're family dinners. In a place designed to strip away humanity, food becomes a way to reclaim it. But commissary also exposes the inequalities inside prison. Not everyone has family sending money. Some inmates rely on state wages that might be as little as a few cents an hour. For them, commissary is out of reach. They watch as others build feasts while they're stuck with bland trays. Hunger becomes another divide, another reminder of who has power and who doesn't. The commissary economy also fuels hustles. Some inmates run businesses, selling meals they cook from commissary, charging interest on loans of ramen or candy, even reselling items at marked up prices. It creates a shadow market where food is the currency of survival. But just like any economy, it can turn violent. Debts unpaid can mean fights. Hustles gone wrong can end in stabbings. The value of a 30-cent ramen pack suddenly becomes life and death. Outside, it might sound absurd, grown men fighting over noodles, trading Snickers for services. But inside, it makes perfect sense. When you're cut off from money, from jobs, from freedom, food becomes everything. It's survival, status, and comfort rolled into one. And maybe the most telling part? Even when inmates are released, many carry commissary food culture with them. Former prisoners talk about missing ramen spreads, about craving the recipes they invented behind bars. Because in a place where everything is taken from you, creating a meal even from scraps feels like taking something back. So if you really want to understand life in prison, don't just look at the chow hall. Look at the commissary. That's where the economy thrives, where creativity lives, and where dignity is rebuilt one ramen pack at a time. When you think about prison food, you might imagine it's just boring or unappetizing, but the truth goes much deeper. The diet behind bars doesn't just wear people down mentally, it damages their bodies too. Start with nutrition. On paper, prisons meet calorie requirements, but calories aren't the same as nutrients. Most meals are built from starches: bread, rice, pasta, potatoes. Cheap carbs fill bellies, but they don't build healthy bodies. Protein, when it appears, is often soy-based substitutes or low-quality meat. Fresh fruits and vegetables? Rare. Vitamins and minerals? Almost non-existent. Over time, inmates suffer from malnutrition, not starvation, but slow, creeping deficiencies that sap energy and weaken immune systems. Then, there's the opposite problem: obesity. Prison diets are loaded with processed carbs, fried foods, and sugary drinks from commissary. With limited movement, often just an hour in the yard, if that, inmates pack on weight quickly. The combination of cheap calories and a low activity turns prisons into breeding grounds for obesity-related illnesses. Diabetes and hypertension are rampant. Heart disease becomes a ticking time bomb. Medical neglect makes it worse. Many prisons don't have the staff or resources to treat chronic illnesses properly. An inmate with diabetes might wait weeks for insulin adjustments. Someone with hypertension might not get consistent medication. Food and medicine work hand in hand, but in prison, both are broken systems. And then there's the psychological side. Food is tied to dignity. When meals are gray, flavorless, or spoiled, inmates stop eating properly. Some lose weight rapidly, skipping meals because the food is too disgusting to stomach. Others overeat commissary junk, chasing sugar highs to cope with stress. Either way, mental health takes a hit. Depression and hopelessness deepen when even eating one of the few human pleasures left becomes punishment. The health consequences spill outside the walls too. Most inmates don't serve life sentences. They get out and they carry those bodies with them. Ex-prisoners often leave with untreated diabetes, heart conditions, or lifelong complications from years of bad food and bad health care. Families, communities, and public hospitals inherit the costs. Prison food doesn't just punish inmates, it punishes society after release. And then there's the cruelest irony of all. Many inmates are locked up for drug or petty theft charges tied to poverty. They come from neighborhoods where food insecurity was already a problem. Instead of finding stability inside, they find the same pattern: cheap calories, little nutrition, long-term damage. The cycle of poverty and poor health doesn't pause in prison, it accelerates. So when people say prison food keeps them alive, they're only telling half the story. It keeps bodies moving, but it doesn't keep them healthy. It builds illnesses, weakens minds, and ensures that time served behind bars leaves scars far beyond the sentence. Food in prison isn't just a budget line. It's a health crisis hidden behind walls. For all the bleakness of prison food, the gray trays, the Nutriloaf, the malnutrition, there's another side to the story. It's the side that never makes headlines but lives in the cells, in the dorms, and in the commissary kitchens. It's the story of how inmates take the little they're given and turn it into something bigger than food. They turn it into culture, connection, and survival. Walk into a cell on a Friday night and you might see a group of men or women pooling their commissary stashes together. Someone's got ramen, someone else has chips, another brings a packet of tuna. They crush everything together, add hot water from the sink, stir it with a plastic spoon, and suddenly it's not scraps anymore, it's a spread. A meal big enough to share. In prison, spreads are more than food. They're rituals. Birthdays, holidays, or even just the end of a long week, spreads bring people together. In a place designed to strip away freedom and dignity, cooking becomes rebellion. It's saying you can control our trays, but you can't control our culture. And the recipes get creative. Tortillas become pizza crusts, topped with cheese powder, ketchup packets, and crumbled Doritos. Oreos are crushed, mixed with peanut butter and milk, and frozen into makeshift cakes. Hot Cheetos, tuna, and ramen combine into a kind of spicy casserole that, outside prison, no one would ever eat, but inside, it tastes like comfort. Food is also communication. Inmates trade meals, share recipes, and even teach each other how to make spreads. A veteran shows a newcomer how to cook rice in a trash bag with hot water. A father records himself reading a cookbook-style letter to his kids, describing how he makes prison pizza. These are small acts of humanity, proof that even behind walls, people create, connect, and care. There are darker sides too. Food becomes economy, power, survival. A man with commissary credit can control a wing. A woman with a stash of ramen can pay for protection. Food debts spark fights, but they also build bonds. For many, sharing commissary is the only way to make friends, allies, or even family behind bars. And the stories don't stop when the gates open. Former inmates often talk about missing prison recipes, not because the food was good, but because it carried meaning. It was theirs. It was the taste of resilience in a place designed to crush resilience. Some even write cookbooks documenting recipes like chichi, a ramen spread, or prison burritos as a way to tell their story. These cookbooks aren't just about food, they're memoirs written in flavor. This is why prison food matters, because it's never just about calories. It's about power, dignity, punishment, and survival. It's about how a system reduces meals to the bare minimum, and how human beings, even in cages, find ways to make more out of less. So the next time you think of prison food as just bad meals on a tray, remember this: every scoop of beans, every ramen pack, every spread tells a story. A story about control, about inequality, about creativity, and about what it means to be human in a place designed to erase humanity. If this pulled back the curtain on a world you never see, don't let it stop here. Hit that like button so more people hear these hidden stories. Share this video with someone who thinks prison food is just 3 free meals a day. And subscribe, because we're not done. The world behind bars is darker, stranger, and more human than you've ever been told, and we're going to keep uncovering it one story at a time. Because sometimes the smallest thing, a packet of ramen, a slice of stale bread, can reveal the biggest truth about justice.